Hi, I'm Stuart.
Hi, I'm Nikola.
And this is a quick look at the songs and artists that are in the running to represent Slovenia this year at the Eurovision Song Contest. In 2021, we saw the return of EMA Freš, a pre-selection that focuses on young and emerging artists and chooses 4 of them to take part in the main event. And after 2 semi-finals, we're now down to 12 artists in the running to fly the flag for Slovenia in Turin. This year's final offers a lot of musical diversity, tapping into classic, modern, and traditional sounds, and featuring a majority of songs in the native Slovenian language. So between the two of us, we've narrowed it down to kind of a first choice and a second choice. So Nikola, tell me, what is your first choice for Slovenia?
My first choice would be July Jones with her song Girls Can Do Anything. I think that will be very distinctive at the Eurovision this year, even though it could be compared with Chanel as its dance song. It's a different genre. It's more of avant-garde, it's a little bit sensual, and it has that Manouche flavor where it's a little bit provocative as well. I think that could be actually a good choice for Slovenia to qualify. However, as we have with many songs in Eurovision, it's a little bit too repetitive because the chorus is just girls can do anything, girls can do anything, and it gets a little bit annoying, so the reactions of audience could be very different. So I'm not sure how general audience is going to react, but it can go both ways, which is again better than what they did last year with Amen, where everybody was like, yeah, I don't hate it.
You're absolutely right. It's better to be more divisive, to have a more divisive entry than to be just kind of okay with everyone. And I mean, we had members of our team who absolutely loved Ana Soklich's song, and I also really liked her voice. I wasn't as big of a fan of the song Amen. But anyway, as far as 2022 goes, and with July Jones, the repetitiveness of it could be a bit of a turnoff. But it does tick a lot of boxes that I think at least Euro fans appreciate. It's got attitude, it's a pop song, it's got a little bit of a hip hop flavor to it. And it's got quite a few mix of sounds in there. Not my kind of song. I think that if this were selected for Eurovision, I wouldn't be 100% confident in its qualifications, but I think it could just make it. And, you also alluded to the fact that we have already seen a few pop songs in that realm get chosen, and some of them have really stellar performances. So it is a question as to how far this would go when we're looking at all of those. And who knows, there's probably more to come from some of the internally selected countries. And, that's always a question, I think.
Just another point. She is competing in semifinals and Chanel is automatically qualified. So if Chanel remains the only contender with female bop, she wouldn't be her threat in semifinals to qualify, so that's a good thing.
You could also make comparisons to Albania, for example. I don't know if they're in the same semifinal, but again, we talk about this every year. It might not be a factor at the end of the day. I do think about last year's first semifinal when there were a lot of those types of songs, and we ended up losing one that a lot of people agreed was a really stellar performance, and it even individually in the two systems would have qualified. Of course, I'm talking about Croatia, right?
Yes.
So it is always a question. I do think that there are other choices here that could, help Slovenia kind of stand on its own. And that's why my first choice also happens to be one of the fan favorites, and it's Luma with their song All In. I see some people making comparisons to another Slovene song that we've seen recently by Zala Gašper, Sebi. And that one, I think, had that quality where it couldn't really be compared to anything else that was there. It was this, modern, lo-fi, electronic pop song with this really intimate performance and really, atmospheric staging. And I don't really see it as that similar, apart from the fact that it's a female singer with an instrumentalist there. The thing that I really like about it is that it's telling a story with its staging, with the way that the singer interacts with the performer and how she kind of manipulates him like a puppet. I find it a really fascinating concept. In some aspects, it doesn't fully work because I don't know, sometimes the way that he's kind of staring at her looks a little bit weird, but I think this could be refined so that it becomes a real standout performance. And again, like, we don't have anything like this that's chosen for another country. So I think that could be a huge advantage. But I'm curious, what do you think about Luma?
I really like that entry, and I see similarities with the 2019 entry. 2019 was very intimate, but in a romantic and emotional way. And here we have some tension, even sensuality between them. And I prefer that emotion. It looks better on the stage, in my opinion. And it's more grabbing. The staging is quite good. Very simplistic. And if they can do that at EMA, imagine what they can do in Turin. EMA always has excellent stages. They're always a little bit, say, experimental. They're not like classic stages, and I always like that touch. So bravo for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I also really like that that idea that you shouldn't be afraid to try new things. And you know, I see that in other selections, like the Ukrainian selection. They're very bold in their choices, and you know, they're not afraid of trying to redefine what makes a Eurovision entry. So those are our kind of first choices. What's your second choice?
My second choice would be Cool. It's actually their third attempt to go to Eurovision. I don't think it's their strongest attempt, but I think among these other artists, they stand out a lot. I think it could qualify to the finals, but then we have a big threat to them, which is, of course, Mahmood and Blanco. So we would have like two male ballads, and Mahmood Blanco is has that winning potential, where I don't see a winning potential with Be Cool, and people would probably compare these two acts, and I don't see people choosing Be Cool over Mahmood Blanco. So that could be a problem for them. But in terms of qualification, I think they could actually qualify because it's an interesting song and it's in Slovenian.
I think that the two of them are great performers. Another thing that people are probably aware of if they've known how the Slovenian selection has gone in the past is that on those two occasions where they tried, they were the televote winners, but the juries preferred other songs. So, you know, they didn't end up getting chosen. So they clearly seem to be pretty popular, and, you know, they perform well, they interact with each other on stage, and they harmonize really well. I'm not as confident about whether or not this would qualify. Like, to me, this is something that would really be a borderline one because it has a solid performance, but I don't see a lot of strengths in the song itself. Like, apart from certain aspects of the production that I find interesting and make it, you know, sort of unique, I have my doubts as to whether or not this would go really far. And then, of course, you make the comparison to Mahmood and Blanco, which, you know, I get that often we're expecting soloists, and anything that doesn't look like a soloist, you know, you kind of say, oh, right, they're like those other guys that we saw. These songs are completely different, but I understand the point of view about, you know, coming as a male duo could be a problem. I wouldn't necessarily dislike if this were chosen, but, you know, it doesn't reach me on a personal level. And I have a hard time seeing a lot of people really, really liking it. So that's why I'm kind of like iffy about the qualification.
But I think they would attract a younger audience.
That's true. Yeah, I think that, you know, they're kind of young guys, and there's definitely those aspects of young pop stars that you see in them. So I agree in that regard. They could get a lot of, like, a big portion of the youth vote, if you want to call it that. According to the My Eurovision scoreboard app, my first choice is the fan favorite, and my second choice is the least preferred song, apparently, and it's Hauptman and the song Sledim. I really love this performance, not only for the funky sound that it had, but it looked amazing. I thought this was the best looking performance of all of the songs that we saw. The backdrop was pretty simple. We had these, you know, kind of like starry lights, and they were moving around in a very simple way. Even though he's the only one there on stage with the piano, we got some other instrumentalists in the backdrop, and I think that it was incorporated in a very tasteful way where it didn't disturb the aesthetic of the background. And there's one thing that he did, which is usually like a deal breaker for me, which is that he's, of course, starting at the piano, and then midway through, he gets up and moves to a microphone. The way that he did it though, because he's doing, he's still doing like the air piano thing, I actually really liked that. And maybe it was also the fact that the change in the music at that point I thought was really pleasing, that it didn't turn me off it. But I really respect this entry. I don't really know what its realistic chances are at winning, but I just wanted to say that I really like this and I hope to see a good result for it. So I don't know, what do you think about that one?
I'll have to agree with the general audience. I really dislike this song. For me, staging is really good. Let's say it looks very different and it goes with the song. It has that vintage vibe. However, I find that song rather dated and I don't think it's catchy enough to be a Eurovision entry, and that's as far as I can give my opinion.
I imagine that a lot of people have that point of view. I mean, especially if we're going off of what it says on that one poll, but who knows? I understand that this isn't really the typical Eurovision entry, but I'm still going to keep my fingers crossed for at least a good result. We'll have to find out. But those are our thoughts on the songs that we would like to see represent Slovenia. What are your thoughts? Let us know in the comments which ones you think are going to win and which ones your favorites are. We'd love to know what you think. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to Eurovoxx, because we cover all the national selections. We're neck deep in them right now. There's lots more to come, and we'd love to know what you have to say about those. Don't forget to reach out to us on socials, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We'll leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Nikola, and we'll see you next time. Take care.
Bye.